to restore our nation to full prosperity. We're going to go full prosperity and to build the greatest economy the world has ever seen, just as we had just a short time ago. We will make America powerful again. We will make America wealthy again. We will make America healthy again. We will make America strong again. We will make America proud again. We will make America safe again. And we will make America great again. Great again. Great again.
Hey guys, welcome back to the American Tribune Live. Welcome back. I think it's been 2 weeks since we did that. If you're a parent of young kids, you understand that they get sick, daycare shuts down, you are responsible for providing, food and shelter for them. So life has gotten in the way, summer is busy. I hope everyone's been having a good June. June just flew by, and we are on the eve of 4th of July, the greatest holiday in the United States, bar none. It doesn't get better than watching fireworks, listening to the patriotic music, coming together as a community. And now as an added bonus, just libs melting down everywhere, because the 4th of July to them is the height of white supremacy. They tried their Juneteenth thing. Nobody celebrates Juneteenth. They tried to, just to be clear, they tried to erase July 4th. They tried to make Juneteenth the new July 4th. And then short of everyone getting a federal holiday and a day off, it is absolutely garbage and useless and evil. So 4th of July around the corner, cannot be more excited. We got friends and family coming over all weekend. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, going to be jam-packed. I hope you have fantastic 4th of July plans as well. And I was fired up. Could have slid into the holiday weekend here, but I decided that we needed to go on a little rant today about Key West, Florida. Key West is now my proxy. We can kind of get into New York City in a little bit here. It's not exactly apples to apples. And I got to say this up front. Although I am titling the show, Turn Key West into a Dumping Ground for Illegals, I'm talking short term here. I don't want to cede an inch to these communists. I don't want to cede an inch to the illegal immigrants. America is too good for them. They don't deserve to be in any part of it. They all need to be deported home. But we're not going to deport them overnight. And so I have a series of steps in mind here for Ron DeSantis, for Donald Trump. Alligator Alcatraz is a good start. If you've seen the pictures, it's not nearly big enough to house all the illegals. But libs are stepping up to say we will defy the Constitution. We'll defy America first. We will throw up our middle finger at Americans. And we're going to say no. We're going to be a sanctuary city. So in the short term, as Donald Trump and Stephen Miller and Tom Homan and ICE and governors like Ron DeSantis do the right thing for Americans and identify, round up, detain, and ultimately deport these criminal aliens from our country. And they're all criminals, folks, by the way. If they're a gang member, if they're violent with a criminal past, if they're simply here for 3 decades and they've had children illegally, they all need to go home. That's where we're at this point. The normal day-to-day operations, we used to live with the fact that we had a couple million doing like labor on the farms, cleaning your hotel room. We lived with that compromise. Nobody liked it, but it worked. It provided cheap labor for American businesses. That's also an awful thing here. If you deport even the hardworking illegals, guess what? Americans can have jobs again. Kids can have entry-level jobs. They can get some exposure in the workforce. Their wages will go up. It is fascinating to watch the coalition of Democrats here. The voting bloc of blacks are hurt more than anybody else, talking about entry-level, low-skill work. Young kids that also lean left. You are getting hurt explicitly by this illegal immigration plan here, but they love it because the coalition is just a group of people who hate America. You would think to yourself, how is it that feminists that support women are allied with the trans movement that hates women and tries to steal all their spots in sports, tries to undress in front of them in the locker room, tries to mansplain what being a man is? Here's a dude dressed in a dress telling you how to be a woman. You would think on the surface, this isn't really making sense, but it's a coalition of anti-Western civ, anti-male, anti-white. It's all anti-capitalist. They all fall in the umbrella of hating America and everything that made America great. Same thing here. How is it that blacks support illegal immigration when blacks more than anybody else are getting just shafted with this process? You're losing your communities. You're watching illegals get more benefits and handouts. You're watching them steal your job. So again, on the surface, you're like, well, this coalition doesn't make sense. Blacks and illegals in the same camp. But at the end of the day, the black community has been brainwashed to hate white people, hate America, slavery. We had slavery 200 years ago. Now, isn't that interesting too? We should be mad about something. We should hold white people responsible for something that happened 200 years ago. And by the way, that we abolished. You got to hold all whites accountable for slavery, though. Get those reparations now. Hate the white man. Everything's a vestige of white supremacy. We got Hakeem Jeffries filibustering today, even though he called filibustering a vestige of the Jim Crow era. So which one is it, Hakeem? Do you like the filibuster or do you not like the filibuster? But then we can't hold the children of illegals accountable or even illegals accountable that are here right now. So blame white people for something 200 years ago that everybody in the world always practiced and that white people abolished. That's bad. White guilt forever. But then when it comes to the children of illegals, it's not their fault, that their parents came here illegally. So don't hold them responsible, but you can hold white people responsible for something that happened a long time ago. Again, none of it makes sense on the surface. It obviously doesn't. It's incoherent. It's all jumbled. But if you look at through the prism of whatever is anti-America, that's your umbrella. That is your camp. That is the Democrat Party here today. So we got to talk about Key West. Key West, I have been there. Let me know in the comments if you've been there, what your thoughts were. I hated it. The drive was beautiful. I drove from St. Petersburg all the way down to Key West here. I went through the Everglades. I wish I would have been there when Alligator Alcatraz was getting built. Went through the Everglades, went through Miami, went through all the island chains down there, did the cool highways over the ocean. Everything was beautiful about it. And I get to Key West and I'm like, okay, I made it. And Key West was crowded. The roads were small. It had some charm. It could have had some charm there. It wasn't for me. I would rather go to, I think it was Largo. There were some other islands along the way that I eventually stayed at because I was like, I'm getting out of here. I need a little space. I don't want to see people. I just want to see the ocean. I want to sit on a lawn chair on the beach and call it a day here. So I didn't like Key West anyways, which makes my point even easier today. Turn Key West into a dumping ground for illegals. And not forever, to be clear, folks, not forever. But Key West needs to be made an example. We're out of options. We cannot teach libs anymore what real life is, what consequences are, what decency is, what goodness is. So they just need to learn the hard way. I want Ron DeSantis, as soon as Alligator Alcatraz overflows with illegals that are about to be deported, I want them all to be sent to Key West. This is an island community with plenty of libs owning hotels, libs owning their rental houses, libs owning their beach houses. I want to see every illegal from Florida sent to Key West, and I want them to overrun it. And this is going to sound harsh, but this is the only way they can maybe learn. I'm not convinced these communist libs anymore will ever learn. They have been so thoroughly brainwashed. These are the people that still wear masks. They're still getting their COVID boosters. They're still saying, no, human is illegal. Love is love. We need to tolerate everybody. And then they'll throw you in a prison camp as soon as they get the chance, if Democrats ever get back in power. They hate you. The same people that say, I love everybody. We need to tolerate everything. They hate you and their ideas. So that's all a facade too. It's all pretend. But they love illegals. They can have them. I want Key West in the short term to be overrun by illegals, demographic change. I want it to be overcrowded. I want there to be rampant crime. I want they're going to call it beautiful. Again, I'm on the fence about Key West. I didn't really appreciate it anyways, which again, why it's easier for me to say, just turn it into a dumping ground for these folks because I don't care anymore. You know what? Build a wall, build some gates outside of that island, preserve the highways, preserve the rest of the island here. And again, when it's a dumping ground, I mean, only police, only ICE, only they're going to be driving on the roads here. Illegals won't be driving. They need to be barred leaving the island. Drop them off, build a wall, and let Key West residents that voted for this 6-1. Their city council voted 6-1. I'm going to play the clip in a second here. Let them deal with the consequences. If anything is going to get through the thick brainwashed skull of these communists, these deluded Dems, it's going to be rampant crime, absolute destruction of their city. If it's attacks on them, assaults on them, this is where we're at, folks. We can't convince them with our good ideas anymore. You can't just go to them and say, illegals shouldn't be here. Do you want the crime statistics? They're overwhelmingly more likely to commit crimes. And I know per capita is a sticky subject with libs because their tiny little brains can't process the idea of per capita. They always say, like, well, whites commit more crimes than illegals. Yeah, because there's a lot more whites in this country, you dumbass. So per capita, they commit more crimes. The demographic, cultural change. You like the charm and the quaintness of Key West? Well, have fun with taco street vendors everywhere. Have fun with graffiti on your walls. Have fun with drugs. Have fun with human trafficking. Have fun with more violent crime. Like, good luck. This is where I'm at, folks. I'm just at the good luck phase of life. We have tried to present them good ideas, rational ideas, common sense ideas, tried to present them the Constitution to say we're allowed to be a country. We played a clip I should actually pull this clip up. I'll pull this up in a second here. We got Rush Limbaugh. I played this on the podcast last week on Freedom from the Press. 30 years ago, he had the Limbaugh laws, and he read off all these fantastic common sense things. And then I won't even spoil it for you. It is astounding, though, what other countries are allowed to do. Every other country in the world allowed to enforce immigration. And by every country, I mean every non-Western country. England's not allowed to enforce immigration. Germany's not allowed to enforce immigration. Western Europe, America. But if you are these countries from which the millions of illegals are coming, you should take a look. Folks, this is your homework for the weekend. Take a look at the laws on the books in the countries that send us their worst. And you're going to be like, whoa, I couldn't do that as an American. Turns out if I'm a white American and I try to just illegally enter Mexico or Guatemala, when I was in Peru for a year, I had to cross the border every 90 days to redo my tourist visa because I wasn't allowed to work there. I got paid under the table. This just in, that was fine. Apparently, I was an illegal immigrant working in Peru, so I guess I'm a hypocrite. But Peru had really strict immigration laws. They didn't want me coming down there and stealing jobs or making money that wasn't taxed. So they would have deported me in a heartbeat. I had colleagues that had their passports taken from them by Peruvian authorities, and they were like, see you later. So this is a real thing. If anyone else has taught English overseas, South Korea, very strict. Asian countries, they don't mess around with that. I had colleagues hiding in closets as Korean authorities were going through raiding these schools to be like, you are working illegally. But in America, you're a racist if you think a country should just be able to operate according to basic common sense laws. Absolutely astounding here. Let's play the clip. Let's play the clip of Key West. People are celebrating. People are cheering. And to be clear, not everybody in Key West is absurd and insane. But this is where we're at. Democracy is not a great idea because democracy just means you get a couple idiots in charge, and usually the vocal minority wins out because they're such good people. They're the ones that show up. The rest of us here, we just go to work, focus on our families. We don't want to spend our lives inundated, surrounded by politics, percolating in the nonsense that politics is. But these losers have nothing else in their life, so they show up to these town meetings. They have their city council members say, no humans illegal. We're such good people. We're going to defy Ron DeSantis. Let's play the clip, and then I'm going to talk a little bit more about why Key West just needs to turn into a dumping ground.
City Hall lasted nearly 2 hours. It was a 6-1 vote among those commissioners. Well, the resolution makes the immigration enforcement agreement with Key West PD, quote, void and unenforceable. WLRN reports it was put in place by the department's police chief, but not approved by the commissioners. Local police officers now, it gives them training and the authority by Customs and Immigration to enforce those federal immigration laws. It's important to note here, every sheriff's office in Florida has now signed this agreement that gives them the authority now to act as ICE enforcing those federal.
All right, so there you go, folks. On a vote of 6-1, Key West decided that they are too good of human beings to enforce the Nazi fascistic ICE agents under Donald Trump and the local authorities down in Florida here. And I know what you're saying. Why are we ceding an inch to these communists? Why are we giving refuge anywhere in America to illegals? And I agree with you. I don't want to give up a single American a home, let alone an entire community here. But we're not going to win that fight overnight. The reality is there are tens of millions of these dudes in this country. We could deport them all if we wanted to. If Donald Trump had the political will, he could do it. We have the resources. We have the people. We certainly have the money now that the big, beautiful bill is getting passed here. We could do it. In 4 years, we could have 0 illegal immigrants. I think I saw some tweet. I didn't fact check it, but I think it was some East Asian country. It was Pakistan or Iran. They deported like 120,000 Afghanis in like 2 days. And I think they were already concentrated in some camp. But it can be done. If one of those countries can remove 120,000 people, and again, I didn't fact check it, but I believe it, it can certainly be done in America. You don't need ICE to be huge. You just need every local police department to say, we know where 20 dudes are, and today we're going to round them up. And then tomorrow we're going to find another 20 dudes, and we're going to round them up. I'm going to go to every construction site. I'm going to go find all the roofers. I'm going to find all the construction workers on the roads. I'm going to go to the hotels. I'm going to go to the restaurants. And yes, you might be a hard-working illegal, but it doesn't matter anymore. Joe Biden and the Democrats violated that. Again, I said at the beginning, we put up with that. We tolerated it on a small scale. We didn't love the fact that there were illegals working here under the table, changing our country demographically, culturally, politically. Chain migration was a huge thing. It was illegal, but it was awful. But we put up with it because the numbers were, it seemed to us, small enough. We're well past that at this point. There are too many illegals, thanks to Biden, Mayorkas, open borders, that, you know what, your time is up. If you're an illegal, I don't care if you've been here your entire life. If you haven't bothered to learn English, haven't bothered to become a citizen, then you got to go home. And your kids, by the way, birthright citizenship out the window, your kids can go home too. I don't care if they've never stepped foot in your home country, your nation of origin. That's where they belong, because this is a country that is allowed to be sovereign and enforce immigration laws and be America first. America exists for me, not for those guys. So again, they all need to go home. But in the short term, the only way, if there is any hope at all, that Democrats are going to wake up to how stupid this all is, then they need to feel the brunt of their voting. Look, I am all in on Mamdani becoming mayor of New York City. I don't think New York City can really get worse anyways. They've always been run by Democrats. They've always had a Democrat mayor in the governor's office. Can Mamdani do worse things? Absolutely. I mean, Cuomo murdered thousands of senior citizens, and he's fine. Yeah, apparently he can still run for mayor. That didn't stop him. It was the fake sexual assault charges that stopped Cuomo, not the mass murder of senior citizens. Can New York get worse? Probably. It's already awful. I don't want to lose New York City to communists. I don't want to lose Key West to communists either. But in the short term, if we're going to wake people up, it just needs to get worse. People dealing with addiction or abuse of any substances, they have to hit rock bottom before they get better. That's where I'm at politically. Democrats have to hit rock bottom. They need to be themselves assaulted by a violent illegal. They need to have all the people in their neighborhood change colors, change values. They need to blare their music. They need to have thousands of people living in one single home. They need to see the graffiti. They need to see the crime. They need to see all the chaos that comes with illegal immigration here. They need to see their jobs stolen from them. All of it. I want Key West to be overrun by illegal immigrants, and I want all of the residents of Key West that support this to be affected by that. And by affected, I mean as affected as possible. If you get mugged on the street, if you get things stolen from you, if you have your house broken in, if you get hit by a drunk illegal driver, you supported this. You voted for this. Why should I feel bad for you anymore? Is that empathetic of me? Is that humane of me? I don't wish it upon anybody, but I'm out of options at this point, folks, and I think you should be too. What else is there to do at this point besides letting them feel the consequences of their deluded, brainwashed voting habits? They support evil. They need to be confronted by evil. That's it. That is it. The only teacher left in life for these people is the teacher of real life hard knocks. Now, in the short term, that's what they can deal with here. Again, dump all of the illegals into Key West. Let the residents of Key West watch their city crumble and fall apart. I am rooting for this. I want those boats to be graffitied and vandalized. I want all the wealthy libs down in Key West to see that, oh, I can't take my boat out anymore. Well, I can't visit my beach house anymore because some squatter moved in. And I say, let it go wild. Let the city fall apart with all of the illegals. Now, Ron DeSantis won't do this because he cares too much about Key West. And I understand the optics of it. And I understand that, yes, it's not good in the short term. But later on, once they're all down in Key West and you've deported everybody else, then you just move into this island. Where are they going to go? They're going to swim back to Cuba or swim over to Mexico? Probably not. So then they're all there. And then you can round them up easily and get rid of them and maybe rebuild Key West. And the problem with that, if it's too short, is that the libs won't have learned a lesson. They'll be like, oh, they're gone now. Let's go back to being stupid libs. So maybe it needs to happen for a little bit longer for the message to really sink in. But I'm out of options, guys. I am really out of options for these libs. They just need to feel the brunt of their voting. They need to feel the consequences of voting for violent illegals to remain in this country. I don't want them in my neighborhood. I'm not voting for that. Why should I have to deal with them? If you voted for it, you should have to deal with it. And I think we should pass a law. I think Ron DeSantis should say, any town that votes to support this stuff should be mandated to house an illegal. It's not good enough that they just move into your community and take up Section 8 housing or move into an apartment complex. You as a Democrat voter should be mandated to house a family of illegals. And I don't care what you say. Oh, my house is too small. I've got young kids. I'm at work all day, so I'm not home to supervise the illegals. Yep. Welcome aboard to the plan. That's exactly what we've been saying on a national scale. But again, these people are morons, and I don't want to be name calling here, but you're just low IQ at this point. You can't connect the dots. Why is it not okay for them to stay in your house, but it's okay for them to stay in our collective house, our country? And it is not. It is not. So I have to make this point again. I'm going to read the title of the program again. Turn Key West into a dumping ground for illegals. Let the city crumble. Let it fall apart. Let it be overrun. Let there be violent crime that affects every person that voted for this. I would not shed a tear if one of the city council members that voted for this chaos and insanity to be personally, physically affected by an illegal in that town. Oh, you're trying to walk home and a drunk driver careens on the sidewalk? Well, you voted for it. Like, what else am I supposed to say at this point? Totally black-pilled on all of this. I can't reason with them. They're going to call me a bigot, a racist, a xenophobe, a white supremacist if I tell them why this is a bad idea. So you know what? You know what can tell them it's a bad idea? Hard knocks and real-life consequences. That's it. That is it. If you vote for this, you should get it good and hard. New York City is going to get communism good and hard. And I feel bad for the small business owners there. But you know what? America is a much bigger place than New York City. You should have been reading the writing on the wall for decades at this point. I grew up in a town that, would it be nice to live there again? Maybe, I guess, but it's also nice to see new places and find communities that fit your values, share your values. People can leave New York City. This is totally an option here. It's not like it's New York City or nothing. There are other places to go. Now, if you do leave, the thing that's going to happen, of course, is these libs in New York City, these libs in Key West, my plan could come to fruition. We could actually dump all the illegals down in Key West and destroy that community for a while. The Conch Republic, if you will. I think they seceded from the United States in the 80s. They could do it again. It sounds like they want to secede again. They will go somewhere else where there aren't illegals. Make no mistake. This is how libs operate. They will vote for this insanity. And then they're going to realize, like, I don't like what's happening here. And they don't connect the dots. They don't connect the dots between how they voted and then what happens. So then they go somewhere else that is run and managed properly by conservative values. And then they proceed to vote Democrat again. They're like, well, this person sounds nice, so I'm going to do the same thing because I have never connected a dot in my life. I didn't realize that voting Democrat and harboring illegals and becoming a sanctuary city would mean that my city got overrun by illegals and destroyed. And it's not the community that I love anymore. It's just like, people, wake up. Wake up. If you vote for this, when it comes to voting too, I got so many thoughts on this. Folks, this is why I had to do the podcast today. I have so many thoughts on this. If you are a Democrat and you move from a blue locale, if it's a city, if it's a state, you should not be allowed to vote for like 5 years. Whatever the rule in college was before they did the transfer portal, you have to sit out a year and redshirt and you're not allowed to play again. That's how we should do voting. If you're a Democrat voter and you flee the community that you voted for, you should not be trusted to vote. You need to sit this one out. You don't get to go from California to Idaho and then turn Idaho into Little California. No, you get to participate in Idaho's functioning society by just being grateful that people aren't as stupid and brainwashed as you. You don't get to vote. You don't get to run for office. You just get to exist in the nice community that we built based on our good value systems. And then maybe down the road, if you've proven that you've woken up from your brainwashed stupor, maybe we'll allow you to participate in democracy again. But something has to change. These people are locusts. Democrat voters are locusts. They will all hoard around one spot. They will vote for its utter demise, and then they will just swarm the next community to bring their fantastic communist ideas somewhere else, proceed to ruin that, and just hop around from city to city. Again, they should not be allowed to vote. How about that? All right, we're going to move gears here for a second. Donald Trump exposes what this game is all about. I have been saying this for the last year, basically. If you wondered why Democrats love illegals so much, and I'm not talking now about Democrat voters. These people are just brainwashed, useful idiots. I'm talking about the Democrat elites. If you wondered why they want to bring in so many illegals, because you're thinking to yourself, they represent me. They represent this country. They swear an oath to the Constitution. Well, that doesn't line up with allowing unfettered illegal immigration here, where countries are allowed to empty their prisons. They're allowed to bust them to our border, help them across the border. Why are they doing that? So Donald Trump lets the cat out of the bag here. And again, this is not new information, but in the context of Key West, important to point out, they don't actually care for the illegals. They don't care at all about any of this. They care about power. Listen to Trump's comments here about Alligator Alcatraz and his game plan now for 2026 that could be a game changer.
How many Americans with proof of citizenship are in our area, in our country, redistricting some of the House districts? Your thoughts on that?
Well, I'll speak for both of us. We love it. Okay, you're going to like this one. I know all about it. We want to bring our elections back. The election in 2020 was rigged, millions and millions of votes. It had to do with COVID and a lot of things, but it really had to do with the crooked people. The Democrats are very good at cheating on elections. And that's why I said too big to rig. They tried this one too. But after about 9:02, they gave up too many votes, too big to rig. Ron would love it. I would love it. Christie would love it. That's what they have to do. They have to bring it back. And we have to look, Ron, they include anybody that happens to be in your state.
Well, California would lose like 5 seats if they did a fair census. And even beyond that, the Biden census gypped Florida of at least 1 seat. We only got 1 seat in the last census. Are you trying to tell me that Florida only had 1 seat in that? We should have had at least 2. Texas should have had another one. That could be the difference in the House of Representatives in the majority. So I would love for them to redo the census for 26. My legislature will redistrict those lines. We'll get it to where it's fair. But as it's right now, this country is not fairly apportioned. I've got so many more millions of people in Florida that have representation because of that flawed census.
All right. So illegal aliens in the United States, tens of millions of them. My estimate, folks, is like 80 million. That's where I'm at this point. It's been 30 million since I was a kid. That is not true. Maybe it was 30 million in the 90s. So my guess is 80 million illegals right now, and they all count for apportionment in Congress. They all count when it comes to the Electoral College. So you got Donald Trump out there competing in Florida and Ohio and all the other swing states, and all the illegals that live in those swing states, they count. This is no good. So California houses the illegals. New York houses the illegals. Guess what? When we lose California to Democrats because California voters are idiots, they get more points for it because the illegals are in there and they count. This is not a controversial subject. Now, should we count illegals in the census to know who's here? Absolutely. Should we include illegals in the count when it comes to deciding representation in the United States and our constitutional republic? Absolutely not. I don't know who signed off on this in the first place, but it needs to stop. And Donald Trump is making a move to do the census and then only count American citizens. I know it's completely insane. It is completely insane that American citizens should be represented in Congress. Why are illegals? Oh, because they live here and they work here and they pay taxes and they send their kids to school. No, they're an illegal citizen. They don't get a voice. They shouldn't even be here, but they get a voice in that. So Ron DeSantis, as he lays out, I got millions of people here down in Florida. They are less represented than an illegal alien. Let that sink in. Because illegals count on the census, they count for apportionment of House seats, they count in the Electoral College. You as an American citizen, you are less than one person. Remember when they made all these waves about the 3/5 compromise and they said blacks aren't worth the same as a white person? Yeah, when it comes to counting votes, it's the same nonsense here. No, they're not worth less as a human being, but they shouldn't be worth anything when it comes to representation in Congress. So Trump, DeSantis making moves to change that, as they should. But this is why Democrats love illegals so much. Because right now in the system, if you're a Democrat and you look at the landscape and you say, we are on the wrong side of every 80-20 position, we're on the wrong side of everything. I always posit this. I'm on YouTube. I'm not on Facebook, so I don't get the trolls. I've always asked my Democrat audience out there, can you name one single policy that is good, just, and makes sense? And no one has ever answered that question. Can you name one thing from the Democrat platform in 2025 that is actually good? And I get crickets. They'll never answer that question. They just go, yeah, but Trump. Yeah, but fascism. So they don't have an example for that. But they want illegals in this country to offset you, the common sense, patriotic, America-loving citizen. That's all this is. They want as many people here as possible to rig the system in their favor. They want to swarm their blue states with illegals so that there is more congressional districting in those blue states. They even want more illegals in red states. Because I want Key West to turn into a dumping ground, but if we turn Key West into a dumping ground, guess what? That's a blue district by a lot because of the count of illegals in the sentence and the use of them in apportionment right now. So wherever they are in the country, on the Electoral College at the national level, blue states love their illegals because it gets them a higher Electoral College count. And then they even love them in the red states because that means more Democrat congressional districts have to be drawn. This is not rocket science. This is not because they care about them. If Democrats actually cared about people, they would have secured the border, because hundreds of thousands of kids under Joe Biden went missing at the border. We know that young girls and young women faced horrific abuse, sexual assault at the border. We know that drugs poured across the border and killed, I think it was 100,000. We're setting records for overdose deaths every year, thanks to Chinese fentanyl getting smuggled across the border. I don't even know if it was smuggled under Joe Biden. I think they were just like, hey, Joe, we're bringing more drugs across the border. And he's like, that sounds great because I let the cartels run the country here. If they cared about human beings, they would be the most staunch advocates of a secure border. No more human trafficking, no more rape trees, no more rape houses, no more drugs pouring across the border, no more people dying from overdoses. If they cared about people, actually cared about people, and it's the illegals that are getting raped, the American citizens that are getting killed, it doesn't matter. It's all one and the same. This is a larger process to play politics. They want power. At the end of the day, they simply want power, folks. They don't care if they're brown. They don't care if they're black. They don't care if they're white. I mean, they do to an extent because they hate Western civilization, and you can't remove whiteness from Western civilization. They hate Western European ancestry because we built the entire world. You cannot look at any map on the world and be like, well, white people went there and it got better. Every single time. If white people didn't go there, it was not as good. If white people went there, it got better until they chased away or murdered the rest of the whites, and then their countries devolved back into tribal anarchy. South Africa, Rhodesia, India, those places were nice once upon a time because Western European ideals and values and governance made it a better place for everybody, but they chased out the whites, murdered them, stole their land. And now, would you want to live in Zimbabwe? Would you want to live in South Africa? Would you want to live in India now? Of course not. And anything good about those places, it's a vestige of colonialism. And I say that in the best way possible. Colonialism was great. We brought values, we brought society, we brought structure and order to everywhere people went, and they hated it. And they hate you by extension. So again, when they want to tear down Western civilization, you cannot separate the fact that they hate the white race as well. And so, yes, they love brown people for that reason. They want to brown the country. Great replacement theory. This is real. This is not even a theory anymore. This is the great replacement fact. So it needs to stop. I want them counted in the census so I know where they are and who they are, and eventually they can be rounded up. But no, they do not deserve to be factored into congressional districting, apportionment in Congress. They don't deserve to have more say in the Electoral College. As an American citizen, I get to be part of that process, not these guys. All right, and I did find the Rush Limbaugh clip here. Let me give me a second to pull this up. Everybody. All right, so I talked earlier about how Rush had these laws 30 years ago. Wait at the end of the video. There is a punchline here. Again, it's not a shocker if you know what's going on, but Rush makes a very simple case in the 1990s, 30 years ago, about what needs to happen. And again, he was talking about this 30 years ago. Has illegal immigration improved since then, or has it gotten worse? I'll let you decide. So if Rush saw this as a problem 30 years ago, just extrapolate that. We're at orders of magnitude in a much worse place at this point. Take a listen to Rush's policies here. And again, wait for the punchline at the very end.
He's making immigration proposals these days. Let me add mine to the mix. Call it the Limbaugh laws. First, you immigrate to our country, you have to speak the native language. You have to be a professional or an investor. No unskilled workers allowed. Also, there'll be no special bilingual programs in the schools with the Limbaugh laws, no special ballots for elections, no government business will be conducted in your language. Foreigners will not have the right to vote or hold political office. If you're in our country, you cannot.
I got to pause it right there because I'm a big proponent of this right now. If you were born somewhere else, I'm looking at you, Jamila Prayal. What's her name? Pramila Jayapal. I always confuse she has too many letters in her name. Pramila Jayapal, foreign born. The dude that introduced impeachment articles, Sri Thandekar, foreign born. Even Senator Bernie Moreno, I think he was born in Colombia. So again, being fair to this needs to be the case. You can't let an exception make the rule. Bernie Moreno seems like a decent enough senator, MAGA senator, endorsed by Donald Trump last November when he won the election in Ohio. He is an exception, but I am making a general rule here. If you were foreign born, Rush makes this point, and I make this point too. Foreigners should not be allowed to hold office. I would go a step further and say the children of immigrants should not be allowed to hold office either. I also made the rule that if you're a Democrat and you move to a red state, you should be barred from voting for, I'm going to say 5 years, barred from holding office. Let's go 5 years again. If you're an immigrant, you're never allowed to hold office or vote. And if you're a child of an immigrant, maybe we let you vote, but you definitely don't get to hold office and make decisions. Pramila Jayapal is up there saying, I am representing immigrants. She's not representing her constituency. She's not representing America, not representing the Constitution. She's representing immigrants. Those are her own words. Ilhan Omar was born in Somalia. Her father genocided hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of fellow Somalis. And then she claimed political persecution when the regime got overthrown and they were trying to kill her. And it's like, yeah, they should kill you. You deserve to be killed. Your father was a maniac. We let her come to this country. She calls it the worst country she's ever seen. She hates this country. And we let her hold office too. Like, this is insane. These immigrants, the only thing they're allowed to do when they come to this country is say thank you. And then right after that, they learn English, like Rush said. And then I don't know, sending your kids to school. Yep, they need to learn English as well. This seems common sense, folks. You don't get to go from somewhere else, have different values, have different ideas of governance. You left your country that sucks. You came to America. You need to be grateful that something like this exists. And that is it. You don't get to determine how we run our country because guess what? We've been doing just fine without you. You can say thank you, and you can say it in English because you're learning English right away. That is it. No holding office for immigrants, no voting for children of immigrants, no holding office for children of immigrants. You get to say thank you, and that is it. You get to get in line and do what Americans do. You don't get to bring your other stuff here. Now, does that mean you can't celebrate your own special day? The Irish get St. Patrick's Day. You don't get Cinco de Mayo. I'm not saying that. You can do your silly celebrations. You can do your thing that means something to you. You don't get to participate in democracy, though.
Be a burden to taxpayers. You are not entitled to welfare or food stamps or other government goodies. You can come if you invest here, an amount equal to 40,000 times a daily minimum wage. If not, stay home. But if you want to buy land, it'll be restricted. No waterfront, for instance, and as a foreigner, you have to relinquish individual rights to the property. And another thing, you don't have the right to protest. You're allowed no demonstrations, no foreign flag waving, no political organizing, no...
This one really hits home, folks. No protesting, no foreign flag waving. Doesn't that sound just like what we experienced in Los Angeles? And I'm still waiting to see, like, how many did we arrest? How many did we deport? How much vandalism is still present and hasn't been cleaned up? These people speaking Spanish, waving Mexican flags, screaming, "Don't send me back to Mexico." Absolutely insane. As an immigrant, like I said, you get to say thank you. You are protected under the Constitution, certainly. But yes, no mass protests on behalf of your enemy foreign nation. You are in America, and you can wave an American flag. You can go to the 4th of July parades because you're in America.
Bad-mouthing our president or his policies. You're a foreigner. Shut your mouth or get out. And if you come here illegally, you're going to jail. Now, you think the Limbaugh laws are harsh? Well, every one of the laws I just mentioned are actual laws of Mexico today.
I'm going to play that last part again, folks. That is so good.
Now, you think the Limbaugh laws are harsh? Well, every one of the laws I just mentioned are actual laws of Mexico today. That's how the Mexican government handles immigrants to their country. Yet Mexicans come here illegally and protest in our streets. How do you say double standard in Spanish? How about no más?
No más. Adios. Hasta luego. Hasta nunca. You guys are out of here. Folks, this was 30 years ago. 30 years ago, Rush Limbaugh was talking about all the problems we're facing today and then some. If it was bad in the 90s, we can see how bad it is now. Again, orders of magnitude worse here. And again, the punchline was that Mexico has those laws in the books. And guess what? Mexico enforces them. So the same people, these people are fleeing a country, leaving a country that has these laws. They know those laws exist. They wouldn't let you as a white American go down to Mexico and run for office. They'd be like, no, this is Mexico, you idiot. So then they come here knowing that, and then they turn around and say, we are going to run for office and vote for the same socialist policies, the same chaos, the same cartel ownership of the stuff we just left. It makes zero sense. But again, I would argue too, if we did, and USAID is going out the window here, Democrat spending. There's no Democrat party without government theft, stealing your tax dollars, funneling it back into these organizations that go out and lead the protests here. But again, it needs to stop. And so I'm gonna bookend this here. We're running up on 40 minutes here, running a little long this morning. I want Key West to turn into a dumping ground for illegals. I'm basing that premise on the recent city council vote that said they're going to defy everything good about this country and make it a sanctuary city. They're not going to follow up on Ron DeSantis' orders. They're not going to use their local authorities to detain, arrest, help get these people deported. So I want Democrats to experience the full brunt of their voting. That is where I'm at. I make zero exception to that. If you vote Democrat and something happens to you because of an illegal immigrant, I'm just going to be like, I tried to tell you. I can't feel bad for these people anymore. I feel bad enough for my family, for my kids growing up in this world. They are dealing with the destruction that Democrat voting leads to. I got enough problems to worry about. I am not worried about some deluded, brainwashed Dem who is, again, wearing a mask when they drive alone. They are still getting their COVID booster. They are doing everything idiotic that harms this country. They deserve to feel everything that comes with voting Democrat at this point. Make Key West an example. And I don't even know if New York City is already an example. It doesn't change people. It doesn't stop them from voting Democrat. Again, not long-term, not forever, but long enough that things happen to these people down there. And then maybe they're forced to reconcile the fact that, like, gosh, I voted for this and it's not very good. Seems like the rest of Florida is pretty nice. It's orderly. It's safe. The streets are quiet. There's no crime. There aren't entire swaths of the community overrun by gangs. Maybe they're onto something. We could only hope it was that good. In the meantime, in the short term, Alligator Alcatraz, Love it. Fill it up. Fly as many of these folks back home as possible. If you run out of space, Key West just said they can come here. Now, they might do the same thing as Martha's Vineyard when Ron DeSantis flew 50 illegals at Martha's Vineyard and they said, we can't support them. We love illegals, but they can't stay here. And they shipped them out the next day. I say build a wall around Key West, fortify it, and say, you wanted it, you got it. I want crime. I want vandalism. I want chaos. I want destruction. I want crumbling infrastructure. I want all of it down in Key West. I want these people to see what happens when you vote for unfettered, unmitigated illegal immigration. And maybe, just maybe, these people will change their minds. If there's any hope of that happening, it is through hitting rock bottom. These people need to hit rock bottom, and rock bottom is going to need to hit them pretty hard, I must say. All right, folks, with that being said, we are going to sign off here. Oh, we just went over the 40-minute mark. So much to talk about today. I'm fired up about this process. Again, I don't want to cede an inch to communists. I got to make this point, too, before I sign off. I don't want to cede an inch to illegals. I don't want to cede an inch to communists. I want to save my country. And it is like a play. It's if you've ever had mold. I found mold in my porch, so I got to clean that up today. If you've ever seen mold, it starts with a little black spot, and then it spreads. These people are moldy. They are locusts. They go from one spot to another. They just spread forever unless they are stopped here. So that's why it's important to deport them all so they can stop the spread. This is the spread I want to stop. I don't want 2 weeks to stop the other kind of spread. I want to stop this spread once and for all. But it's not going to happen overnight. And these people won't learn a lesson. If we deport them all, they'll just be angry and say Trump's Hitler, and they won't learn their lesson here. So deport the rest of them in Florida, send them all to Key West, let Key West deal with it for a while, let them see what it's like, and then go down and rescue Key West and say, are you going to vote differently next time? Have you changed your mind on illegal immigration? So that's my hope. That is my hope for all of us here. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for watching. This is the American Tribune Live with Todd Peterson. We're back next Tuesday. We're here every Tuesday and Thursday at 9 or 9:30. We kind of fire up when we feel like it here. But hope you folks have a great 4th of July weekend. Again, I said this right up front. I'm going to say it again. This is the best holiday of the year. I love July 4th. I love the hot dogs. I love the fireworks. I love the music. I love the patriotism. We have a country to save, everybody, and it starts by deporting everybody except for the ones in Key West. Send them all to Key West. We'll see you on Tuesday. Have a great week.
Starting on day one, we'll implement a rapid series of bold reforms to restore our nation to full prosperity. We're going to go full prosperity and to build the greatest economy the world has ever seen, just as we had just a short time ago. We will make America powerful again. We will make America wealthy again. We will make America healthy again. We will make America